I'm Robert Serrini, and this is where I live. Okay, welcome to Astoria. Astoria's cool, man. It's it's a working class neighborhood. It's not fashionable, it's functional. And what's amazing about it is we have the best butchers, the best cheesemongers, the best food, great bars, great people, real artists. It's like the unknown secret of New York that millions of people know about. But why are you here? Why have I invited you over to my apartment? Because it's a special place. You want to know what a New Yorker lives like? I'm going to show you. This is how a New Yorker lives in New York City. So let's look around. So this is the Egbert Viele map. This is what the island looked like before a human being stepped foot on it. It shows you all the topology, all the waterways, the marshes, the additional land that humans built at Lower Manhattan. And then what Viele did, the civil engineer, was superimpose the building structures and the streets on top. The MTA, our subway system, pumps out something like 13 million gallons of water every day from the subways, rain or shine. And the reason why they have to pump out so much water is because all these rivers and tributaries still exist just underneath the buildings. So they make their way into whatever they can find, and it's usually a subway system, hence 13 million gallons of water pumped out every day. I like anything that changes your perspective. And I can't look at this map and not think differently about what's underneath my feet. Okay, so these guys are cool. I found these in a bookshop, and they're guidebooks from the turn of the 19th century. So this one's for Paris, Great Britain, and Central Italy. It's insane the amount of detail. Can you see how small that print is? I mean, it's every piazza, every road, every piece of art in every church, restaurants, fairgrounds, studios of art. I mean, anything you can imagine. It's so comprehensive. And the work it must have taken to go through these countries and collect the data and then put it in a book, these were very valuable. They have the original maps, falling apart. Look at that. That's so cool. 1900. That's crazy. A lot of this information is still viable. Some of the restaurants, some of the bars, that are recorded in this book, and you could still go see them. I mean, they're like little windows into time of travel, and that's kind of cool. These are kind of neat. This is called a tamborello, and it's an Italian game that you play at the beach. It's kind of like paddleball, but what's neat is that this is donkey skin, and they don't make them with donkey skin anymore. This is super old, but they make these great sounds. So when you hit the ball, you'd annoy everyone on the beach. No, you make these great sounds, and you just basically, you hold it like that, and then you can kind of paddle, and they're really neat. You can still use them. This is like little bit of keels, and you're good to go. Okay, so this is a kaleidoscope. And that's not particularly interesting, but what is that it's from a place called Phoenicia, which is the kaleidoscope capital of the world. I didn't know there was one either. They also have the largest kaleidoscope in the world. It's built in an old silo, and it's really worth checking out. It'll blow your mind. Every year, they host a convention where the world's greatest kaleidoscope makers come to share their wares. And this particular one's made by an individual named Peter Stevens, who is pretty famous in the kaleidoscope world. And it really is one of the most beautiful things that I have. You wanna check it out? Right? It's pretty cool. And they just legalized weed. All right, so good old-fashioned liquor cabinet, I mean, New York's a tough city. Sometimes you need a drink. First of all, there's these cookbooks, and they're kind of unique. These are made in the 70s by this woman named Antonella Santolini, and they're made out of cardboard. They're cardboard covers, and the paper themselves is made out of cardboard. And they're beautiful, they have beautiful illustrations. And what's really cool about them is that the recipes are done in a way that you would cook like at home, like your mother would explain something to you. It's not so much precise amounts, cup of this, half a cup of that. It's more like a pinch of this, a handful of that, some of that, a little bit of this. It gives you an idea of kind of the communication of food and how recipes are passed down. And they're beautiful, and they're really sweet. So sweet, I made an award-winning documentary. In Boca, a film, 20 cookbooks, 4 dishes, 2 friends. Cheers. Take a trip in Boca. Visit Italy in Boca to find out more. A lot of people ask, what's your favorite drink? I'm a big Rusty Nail fan. What's a Rusty Nail? It's Scotch and Drambuie. A little bit of Drambuie, not too sweet. A second choice is the good old chartreuse. It's as close to like a good absinthe as you can get. I got a lot of weird stuff. I got some gin from Iceland. I got some whiskey from Iceland that's been cured with sheep dung. Go Iceland. This is some crazy stuff I actually picked up in Shanghai. It's Polish vodka, but it's 96%. You can literally put this inside your car and you can drive. Perhaps the most interesting and beautiful are these bottles of Scotch, and they come from the Scotch Whisky Society, this one particularly in Leith in Edinburgh, Scotland. And what's so neat about them is that they'll go buy these casks from amazing distilleries pretty much all over the world, and then they'll mature them themselves. You know, they'll wait 30, 40, 50, 60, whatever years, and when they feel it's right, like hitting the peak, then they'll bottle them and put their own labels on them. Now what's cool about it is that they don't ever tell you where they come from, like what distillery. And what they do is they give it like this really funky little name, like syrupy sun-kissed sweetness. Now, what I think is really cool about this, and kind of like a metaphor for life, is that they don't want you to be prejudiced. They don't want you to come in with any information and go, oh, this is from the Highlands, the Lowlands, this is from an island. They don't want you to come in with any pre-notion. They just want you to put this in your mouth and taste it. And then you decide what you think. There is no prejudice that can happen with the whiskey. It's just based on your personal taste. And that, I think, is a really good message for anything, for living in general. I think you should try to live, you know, without brands, without influence. Like, do you like it? Then love it. Do you like this shirt? Then wear it. You like your haircut? Good, enjoy it. Like, that way, I think, is the best way. Because then I think you get the most out of life and you don't get caught up in all the bullshit, really. So, you know, really good whiskey and also kind of a sweet message for life. This guy's dope. All right, so let's talk about Beijing. Outside Beijing, there's this kind of a warehouse where they just collect all this stuff from the countryside. Like, just junk kind of comes in. And it's a lot of statues of Stalin and weird, like, bric-a-brac. I found this little clock and I kind of just fell in love with it. First of all, it's like mid-century, super space age Jetsons, which I dig. But then you got this like amazing propaganda piece in the middle, like the young boy and girl, militant Chinese, you know, powerful country. It just absolutely blows my mind. The clock still works. It is literally the loudest clock I've ever heard in my life. When I was flying back, I had it in my suitcase and it was ticking so damn loud. It was almost too loud to even be threatening. Like, it sounded so much like a bomb that it was a joke. So I really dig this guy. Lastly up here, these little glasses are kind of fun. They're Japanese. And the Japanese can be, oh, what's the word? Very cheeky. So they're beautiful porcelain glasses, but they have this little jewel inside. What happens is when you pour the clear sake inside, you can see through the jewel, and what's there? A picture of a naked lady. I just think that's the bee's knees. All right, so this is a screen print done by a guy named Randy Roadkill. He's from Belfast, and he does mostly like really cool motorcycle illustrations. The screen print was done in a place called Havens Press in Williamsburg. And I just really dug it. I did a little documentary on him and his process, and it's just beautiful, the orange and yellow. It just jams with me, and it also matches my couch, so bonus points there. And I left in the little marks, the printing marks, because I'm a big fan of precision. That's so not true. I'm walking in the deep West Village, like down by the river, deep Tribeca. And I come across this open garage, and it had all this garbage inside on tables, just rows of tables with just mounds of garbage. So I walk in and I ask the old guy, so what's all this then? And he tells me that he's a burner. And doesn't mean like Burning Man, Mesa, the Playa, all that. What he was a guy that goes in to wrecked buildings after a fire and scavenges. And all the stuff in this garage was stuff that they pulled out of fires from the city, which is crazy. So I was like amazed by this. And this particular scale is a Chantalone. It's a, I don't know, I think it's a 720. It's from like the 30s, and it had the original sticker kind of on the face of it, like the weights and balance sticker from New York State, from New York City, saying that it was calibrated. So I don't know, I fell in love with the damn thing because it was wild. He said it came out of a market fire down by where the Fulton Fish Market used to be. I think I paid $10 for it. I mean, that's crazy too, if you think about it. I don't understand how someone goes, you know what I do? I go in the fires and I look through I salvage whatever I can find. Like, how does it become a thing, like a pastime? I binge watch Netflix. How does this guy like go through fires? I'll never understand this place. I love these guys. They're so beautiful. I picked them up in Jakarta at the Jalang Market, which is amazing. These are, I believe you say, Weilang puppets, like they're shadow puppets. And you basically project the light behind a screen and then you can make them dance and move. But they're hand carved, they're made out of wood, and they have like this beautiful finish and paint on them. They're just so, I don't know, they're so pretty. I really dig them. I have a thing for puppets. I'm a director. It makes sense, right? I don't know. Okay, so this is kind of cool. This comes off a little shop, I think it's on 5th Street in the Village. They usually sell just maps, like old maps, but they also have like illustrations, anything that's like old and on paper, this place has. And it's a music sheet. It's the tarantella, and the notes are like little people. It's such a cute idea and so pretty that I had to have it. And then I made the frame. This is an old radio, and I just really love the dials. But back in the day, like in the 60s, they made the technology kind of look like how it should make you feel. It's beautiful. It's a bright color yellow, it's round, it's funky, it's kind of sexy, it's sleek. You know, it plays music. It should make you feel something, you know? Okay, so in Rome, on Via Sanio, there's a flea market that they do on Sundays, and it's wild because you can imagine a Roman flea market's got some really old things. This I found in a bin. It's actually a magazine. The front of it, it's a sports magazine from the 30s. But on the back, they had this advertisement for a shoe store. And what kind of caught my eye was that it has my name. And that's because that shoe store used to belong to my grandfather. And I don't know, I think it's kind of wild that you just randomly at a flea market and you're like, oh my God, my grandfather's shoe store in Rome, here's an advertisement for it. Look at this, more puppets. These guys are Ukrainian, and they're made from clay and cloth. And they're more traditional with the little tchotchkes to make their legs move and stuff. Again, I love puppets. Art, am I right? So this is the first piece of art I ever bought, and it's called No One Wants to Play Sega with Harrison Ford. It makes me laugh every time I look at it, and also kind of hits me in the heart a little bit. It reminds me of my childhood. Just the face on Harrison Ford, scornful, you know, just pushed off to the side, makes me laugh because he was such an icon when I was growing up. He was Indiana Jones, you know? And then, you know, he's just been dismissed by these two pimply kids playing Nintendo, which was my console of choice. It's by an artist named Brandon Bird, and it's one of one. It's the first piece of art, and it's the first piece of art. I think it's dope. On this side, over here, this is a piece that's done by a guy named Squigs, and he's a friend of mine. He does all the cartoons for Broadway shows, so all the caricatures. And he made that for me for my birthday. It's me shooting with a camera, being carried by drones. Pretty accurate, actually. Okay, so I got a problem with collecting cameras. But there's a reason for that. I have 58 working cameras, and I know they work because I run film through all of them. I actually have a website that's called Vintage Camera Quest, and the whole purpose of it is to run film through old weird cameras because they're amazing. Let me tell you why. They're from all over the world. I pick them up in flea markets, in trade shows, anywhere I can find them. And when I hold them or I look through them, I wonder who had them before me. What did the lenses see before me? What pictures did they take of who, in what situation? What hands were holding these cameras? Like, there's such a weird link to the rest of the world by holding these items that it makes me happy. I feel like I can almost teleport depending on which camera I pick up. You know, some I've picked up in Russia or Japan or in China or in India. I mean, they're from all over. So it's kind of cool to be able to hold something like that, and it's functional and it still records the world for you. You know, it's still able to do its function. It all started with this guy right here. This is a Canon A1 that my father bought from me from a pawn shop. I was like 15 years old and a very awkward kid. And I loved writing. You know, I was like a huge journaler, but you know, if anyone's a writer, they know it's maybe the loneliest occupation you can have. So in order to kind of like give me something to do where I can interact with people, my father was like, photography, that's a good idea. And it was, because when I got this camera, I didn't take it off me. It went everywhere with me. And more importantly, it gave me like license to interact with people. This was a time before cell phones, before everyone had a camera in their pocket. So having a camera was actually kind of beneficial to have someone around. I would take pictures of my friends. I'd be able to meet people. I had a reason to be there, you know, and this little guy gave me that reason to interact with people. And to this day, you know, I still communicate to the world through pictures, you know. It just happens to be with film now, but it never left this, you know. This is still the reason and the way that I'm able to talk with everyone. Anyway, they're super cool. I mean, there's all kinds of cameras here, medium format, 35. There's these crazy 110s that you had in high school where you had this guy is a brick. It's a British camera, and the way you would control the shutter speed is the direction you would hold it. So if you held it this way, it'd be a 1/30th of a second shutter, and this would be a 1/60th of a second. I mean, who designs it like that? Crazy Russian cameras, which is, you know, built off of an old Leica kind of build. This is a stereo camera from East Germany. So it would take basically 2 pictures on one piece of film, and then you'd have a special apparatus so you can see the stereoscopic image. This is my grandfather's Brownie. I mean, that's crazy to me. And yeah, it still works. This is a cool guy. It's a lenticular camera. 4 lenses take 1 picture. It has to be processed specially. It prints it on those plastic sheets, the ones that you would kind of like turn, they're ridged, and the image would like change. Very popular in the 80s. There's one place in the United States that still develops that film. It's wild. I think it's in Wisconsin. Polaroid 70, that's a classic. Deserves to be in the MoMA. Little spy camera. You know, Mamiya, picked that in Japan in a little shop. This little old guy sold it to me. I use that camera all the time. Medium format, takes amazing pictures. And then a bunch of 8 and 16 millimeter cameras up top, film cameras, including this Araflex 16 SR. That comes from NYU. I stole it, don't tell anyone. This is a plate camera, probably the earliest one I have, well over 100 years old. Glass plate goes in the back there, and then, you know, take a picture. This is one of my favorite film cameras. It's a Bell & Howell turret. It's called a Filmo. It weighs about 27 pounds. No, it weighs exactly 27 pounds. And it's made out of hardened steel. Most war correspondents in World War II, this is the camera they brought because it could take bullets like this one right here and keep on ticking. They were amazing machines. This is kind of cool. Friend Chris Sullivan, who you might know from This Is Us, was in Ireland, and he was at a flea market. I was asleep because of the time change, but he found this thing. He's like, hey, you want this? This is something you want, right? Hey, you up? You up? All right, I'm just gonna buy this. So he bought this thing and he brought it to me. And what it is a photo sniper. And that is this crazy Russian gun camera that is just mind-blowing. It's got this massive lens. And then what you do is you basically put the stock on here, and then that's it. You have a working camera gun. I think if I took this out now, I'd get shot immediately. But it's kind of wild to think that this was a spy gun that they gave soldiers so that they can do like reconnaissance. What was maybe the wildest thing about this was that it came with these film canisters, and one of them had film in it. So for a long time we were like, should we develop it? What's on it? Maybe we see, who assassinated Kennedy. But it was just a bunch of dogs. That's true. I don't think they were spy dogs. I just think they were regular dogs. But yeah, I love these cameras. And like I said, I have this website. If you want to see more about this or any one of these cameras, I publish little articles about it because I have nothing else to do with my time. This is a Geiger counter. I live in New York. You don't have a Geiger counter? What are you talking about? I read this story or heard this story about this place in Queens that was one of the most radioactive sites in the world, if not America. It was a super fun site. And what was happening was it was a garage, like a car garage. And these guys that worked there started getting like crazy cancer, like all kinds of different types of cancer. It wasn't the same thing. Lymphoma, ball cancer, skin cancer, cancer of the brain. I mean, they were getting destroyed, these fellas. And, it kind of brought attention to the location. They started looking into it, but they couldn't find anything. They looked at the records and there was nothing in that grid that would tell you that there was anything there. And what they found out was that site where that garage was built, that block of land, was where they enriched uranium for the Manhattan Project, which is where the bomb was built. I mean, that's crazy. That was a plant where they enriched uranium to build the nuclear bomb. And I don't know, they tried to hide it or they didn't tell anyone, but for whatever reason, they forgot that they built it there and they turned it into like a commercial zone. And these poor guys built a garage there, auto mechanic garage, and we're dying off. So I bought a Geiger counter because I wanted to see for myself. And yes, it definitely is radioactive. Probably not the smartest thing to do, but I covered my balls. So I went to go film this famous psychologist. This guy basically wrote the book on modern psychology. And while we were there, I noticed that in this beautiful office he had on 89th Street, multiple rooms, he had like I want to say 20 or 30 of these chairs, which is insane because first of all, they're kind of rare. And second of all, that's a lot of these chairs to have just in general. Like it was so much that it looked like he had a problem, which is funny because he's a psychologist. So after it was all done and we had to pack up and go home, I made a little comment about the chairs. And I said, yeah, you sure got a lot of these chairs. And the guy went, I know, I'm trying to get rid of them. So I kind of looked at each other. I was like, you want to sell me one? And he goes, make me an offer. And I was like, no, I don't want to insult you because they're expensive. They're way more than I can afford. And the guy goes, he said, you should always make an offer and let life decide if it wants to take it. All right. So I'm grabbing this big chair, I'm walking it out, and his wife comes down and she goes, what are you doing? And I'm like, no, I bought it. It's okay. Your husband, he sold it to me. He said I can have it. And she goes, no, you can't have that. Not with the stool. And I go, no, he said with the stool, right? He goes, yeah, I said the stool. Oh, what did you do? Not with the stool. I mean, it was like thing, man. And it made me laugh so hard. Regardless, I took it because it's a beautiful chair. It's an Eames chair. And I don't care how big it is or how much it doesn't fit in this apartment. I adore it. This is my desk. It's where I work. I didn't clean it up, so you can kind of see what it looks like every day. This right here is a nice piece of art. It's all the characters from the Wes Anderson films. That's the enlarger that my grandfather owned. This is all my equipment. This is the greatest book I ever read, The Seven Mysteries of Life by Guy Murchie. Not really gonna explain it. You should just read it. This is a Japanese theater mask, and it's quite old, but very, very beautiful. So these are carved out of wood. Some of them are fired in an oven made out of clay. They're then shellacked with this coat that's made from crushed down oysters. And they give kind of this pearlized, opaque wash to the paint and the pigment. It's really beautiful. And there's like 300 different masks. This one I think is called Powerful Woman. They have like Joyful Woman or Jaunty Woman or Angry Guy or pissed off fish salesman. I don't know. They have like 300 different characters, and each one has their own kind of expression and facial structure. And then what's really kind of neat about it is, depending on which way you tilt your head on stage, you can kind of convey different emotions from happy to sad. So they're quite emotive and ingenious, and they've been around for hundreds of years, and they're kind of these weird little relics. This is a Mexican gold coin. It's a 1947 50 peso, pure 1.2 ounce gold coin. And apparently it's quite valuable because the Mexican gold is the purest that you can get. I don't know what that does. I see it in movies. I wouldn't know if it's real or not by biting it. Oh, hi. So a few things in the hallway. A pipe collection. I don't know why I dig pipes so much. My grandfather smoked a pipe. That's his pipe here. But this is an opium pipe from outside of Beijing. It's a bone of something. Good luck. This is a hash pipe from Cambodia. And then this is a corncob pipe from Washington, Missouri, which is the corncob pipe capital of the world. Yeah, there's one of those. And then this is a Peruvian wedding hat. So this I got in Wakawasi, which is great to say. It's all hand knit, it's beautiful. And what they do is the boys, before marriage, will wear these hats, and then depending on what side they put their pom-pom, it kind of signals if they're available or if they're not available. You know what I'm saying? Begs the question, what happens if you wear it down the middle? Actually, I probably know the answer to that. Never mind. So this map of Italy is made for POWs. They were made during the war, World War II, and they're made out of silk. And what they would do is they would cut open the bottom of board games and slide them in between the cardboard, repackage them, and then donate the board games through various channels to POW camps in different parts of the world. So there's maps of Italy, Germany, France, wherever, basically there were POWs. Soldiers knew to look inside the board games to see if there was a map so that they can escape. Now the reason they made it out of silk, and this is cool, is because it doesn't make any noise when you open it, and they can get wet and they won't fall apart. This was another cool map, and it's an allegory map. It basically is the map that shows you the voyage through youth to becoming an adult. You start off in adolescence, and then you go through like the country of sciences, and then through the islands of success, and triumphs and failures. And it basically is a roadmap, allegoric roadmap of how you should go through your life and the things you should look out for. And I just thought it was kind of cool. This piece of fabric I picked up in Mindanao, and it was weaved by the Tabuli women of Seru, and they're a small village of mainly women that have this extraordinary ability to weave these beautiful patterns. And they're called the dreamweavers because what happens is they'll have these dreams where these patterns will pop in their heads, and when they wake up, they then basically weave the patterns that they've seen in their dreams. Now, the interesting part of that is that while they're weaving the patterns, they're not allowed to have sex with their husbands, which I always thought it was kind of an interesting little caveat to the dreamweavers. But they're beautiful, they're all different, and they're all done by hand. There's no pattern making here. And it's made out of this material that comes from the banana tree. You can't feel it through the camera, but it's almost like a plastic. It's waxy and waterproof. And I don't know, I would hate to wear it as a shirt, but I think they make great little tapestries. That's it, that's my house. Those are all my trinkets that I've picked up through many years of travel and work in a big world that is full of cool stuff to discover. Yeah, I think everyone has their little trinkets and bric-a-brac and, the things that they cherish. This just happens to be my little world. So I would love to know what you guys have, what you think's cool or not cool, or where you live, or, show me a picture of your bedroom, Sorry if it was a little messy. I don't sleep much.